Today is the 27th of July, 2010. I am at the Beverwick. Whoops, let's do that again. Today is the 27th of July, 2010. I am at the Terrace at Beverwick Senior Housing Facility, and we are interviewing Patricia Depew, and she's going to talk about a prisoner of war bracelet she received as a teenager. And go ahead, Patricia.
Okay. Well, back when I was about 14 or 15 years old, I sent away for a prisoner of war bracelet. I have it here. The person's name, I don't know if you can get a close-up shot of it.
No, it's coming. Okay, right there. I can make out the name Butler.
Yes.
Okay.
James Edward Butler. And it says Chief Warrant Officer James Butler, and the day he went missing was March 20th of 1970. I don't really have much information on him other than what I have in this report, but I would like for in his memory to make this part of the record. So as I mentioned, his name is James Edward Butler, and he served in the U.S. Army.
Do you want to read off the information you have as to, is there his date of birth or?
Yes.
Okay. Yep. Go ahead and.
Okay.
read.
He served in the 214th Aviation Battalion in the 164th Aviation Group, the 1st Aviation Brigade. His date of birth was June 13th, 1936, and he was born in Lillington, North Carolina. His home city of record was Buies Creek, North Carolina. As I mentioned before, the date of loss was March 20th, 1970, which made him 34 years old, and he was lost in South Vietnam. As of 1973, he was listed as missing in action, Category 1, which means that there's certain evidence to indicate that the enemy forces know the fate of the American. So, I'll read the information that I have about him.
Okay.
On March 20th, 1970, Captain Robert G. Cozart, a pilot, and Warrant Officer James E. Butler departed Vinh Long, South Vietnam, aboard a O-1G aircraft at 10:16 hours on a visual reconnaissance mission over Vinh Binh Province, with a stop at the province capital of Phu Vinh. At 10:28 hours, a radio transmission was received from Warrant Officer Butler advising the Team 72 Tactical Operations Center that they were airborne and en route to Tre Vinh. This was the last communication with the crew. The aircraft never landed at Tre Vinh. Upon receiving notification that the aircraft was missing, a province-wide search was initiated. All immediate search efforts were unsuccessful. Vietnamese civilians, however, reported that an aircraft had been downed in the vicinity of Tre Vinh. Local forces with U.S. advisors, U.S. troops, coastal patrol boats, and light aircraft conducted extensive search efforts from March 20th through March 27th. During the search efforts, one control communication set and one control radio set were located, but were never identified as positively being from Captain Cozart's aircraft. However, they were of the sort used on the O-1G. Now, according to an interview with James Butler's wife, a Vietnamese civilian had reported the crash, prompting the search in the area. Another Vietnamese civilian report indicated that the pilot of the plane, which was Cozart, had been killed in the crash, and the Viet Cong killed or wounded the other crewman, who was Butler, and either took the bodies to Cang Long Base area for display or threw them into the river and dismantled the aircraft. Another Vietnamese civilian report indicated that part of the plane was located, but a September 21st, 1970 search was aborted due to booby traps. The tail section of the aircraft was finally recovered and identified in October the 23rd, 1970. The United States government has classified both Cozart and Butler as Category 1, which means that there is certain evidence to indicate that the enemy forces know their fate. In the peace agreement signed in Paris in 1973, the Vietnamese agreed to release all American prisoners of war and account for the missing. They have not done so. On August 1st, 1989, the U.S. announced that remains returned by the Vietnamese had been positively identified as those of Buster Cozart. However, the fate of James E. Butler remains unknown to this day, close to 40 years later. So that's all the information I have on the situation. I know that when I got the bracelet, I wore it every single day for years, and eventually I stopped wearing it, but I never stopped thinking about him on and off over the next close to 40 years, and never stopped praying for him and his family.
Okay, well, thank you very much for your interview.
You're welcome.